Hey guys, Matt with Flying V here with another Flying VDU, and today we're going to be talking about turkey pot calls. What's in the box when you get a new one, how to prepare them for your next hunt, and then the sounds that you can make on each call. If you like these Flying VDUs and you want us to do a Flying VDU on something specific, whether it be a call or a tactic strategy, something you've seen, go ahead, put it in the comments. We will do our best to make a video based on what you guys want. If you guys like this one and you want to learn about box calls and diaphragm calls as well, we're going to go ahead and make some more of these right up here. Click the link and move on to those calls. But today it's pot calls, so let's go ahead and dive right in. All right, so we're here at the sporting goods store and we're looking at the wall because we're gonna buy a new pot call today. When you get to the wall at your local sporting goods store, it's covered in calls. There's a lot of manufacturers and there's a lot of the same, but there are some differences in these calls. So let's dive into what you're gonna get when you receive or buy a call and what comes in the box, and then we'll talk about the differences between the different surface materials. So this is a pot call that I got from Pacific recently. I did buy this call. I went to them and I called them and I just said, you know, I want something that can appeal to Montana Merriam. I need it to be a little higher pitched and I need it to have the ability to get loud. They recommended that I get their Maniac call. I've never used this call before, but I am excited to get it out in the woods. Sounds like it's going to be exactly what I'm looking for. So, got this call from Pacific. We're going to open it up. You can see everything that you get in the box when you buy a call. All right, so you're going to get a conditioning stone. You're going to get your pot call, and you're going to get a striker. That's basically all that's going to come in the package. Now, when you do buy it, this call, although I already preconditioned it, this call is going to come unconditioned. It's going to have a smooth surface. And so what we need to do is we need to go in and use this conditioning stone to get it hunt ready. This call is not hunt ready as is, so we need to go ahead and condition it. With Pacific, they give you this little stone here. You're going to go ahead and open it up. And the way you're going to condition these, and I like to do it this way, but some people like to do, you know, a quarter of it, a third of it, however much. I like to do a postage stamp style. I'm going to take the corner of the stone and I'm going to just scratch it up, scuff it up, make it so that there's some friction there, right? And that is going to be kind of with the grain here. And then I'm going to take the edge of it, I'm going to lay it flat on the table here and run it like this to get it to be a smooth, to get it all the way conditioned, right? You don't want to have ridges and valleys in it. You want it to be exactly the same so that when that striker is going over the top of it, it's smooth sounding. So I'm going to take this, condition it real quick. You can use some pressure on this. You're not going to break it. Use a little bit of pressure. You're going to start to see some buildup of some dust and extra material coming off of the stone as well as the crystal. And that tells you that you're pretty much good to go. Don't wipe it off. Whatever you do, do not put your thumb on it and wipe it off. It'll ruin your conditioning. You'll have to recondition it. I just simply blow it off. All right. This call is now ready to hunt with. One thing I want to touch on real quick is the slate call, which is another style of call that you're going to see on that wall in front of you when you're hunting or when you're looking to buy a new call, is a slate and or a ceramic. These calls don't need nearly as much conditioning. They're already sometimes hunt ready, but if you want to condition them and if you buy one, you will need to condition it at some point during the season. You can take a Scotch-Brite or a really fine grit sandpaper and just run it over, again, kind of perpendicular or parallel, however you do it. Just run it across this slate. You're going to start to see some buildup of the dusty material of the slate kind of coming off. You don't have to worry about getting it all the way to the edges. That doesn't matter. You can leave this dust on there. It doesn't hurt. I blow it off. She's ready to go. The slate caul specifically, and the ceramic cauls, but I don't use a ceramic caul. I use a slate and crystal. The slate cauls provide a really soft, realistic, full tone when you're using them in really any weather condition. The slate is a little bit more finicky to moisture over the ceramic, but with the, a good striker and some sandpaper, you can go ahead and get that thing tuned right back up in case it does get wet. I personally like to keep them inside of some sort of case inside my pocket just so that they stay dry all the time, and making sure that you keep your strikers dry as well. The striker is really the key thing that needs to be dry as well. So that's the slate caul. It's a caul I use every once in a while if I need to finish a bird. I do not locate with that caul. I only really purr with it and have like soft, realistic tones if there's a tom that's being a little bit finicky, or if he's got a bunch of hens with him and I'm kind of like drawing up a scenario that I am just a lone hen or a couple of hens just hanging out, scratching around. But really I'm gonna dive into and make all my noises today on a crystal caul. So we have our crystal conditioned, ready to go. Now, how do we make the noises on it? We're gonna start with positioning of the pot caul itself. What you wanna do is you wanna position it to where you're drawing your striker perpendicular to the conditioning marks. So we went this way with our stone, so we're gonna go this way with our striker. So I hold it just like this, putting it parallel to me so I can pull that striker perpendicular right at me and make the sounds. Holding the striker is really important too. I like to hold it like a pencil, just like this. And I have the ability to move it like this or draw with it. So you're holding it just like a pencil. You have your index finger pointing the striker down. And when I place it on the caul, I'm gonna run it at about I'm gonna say 100 and maybe 110 degree angle pointed back at me. And I'm gonna be using the rounded tip on these strikers. You don't want it on the apex of that rounded nature. You want it to be a little bit on the edge of it. That'll help it sound smooth. It'll give it a more full tone. You want to have that striker pointed back at you just a little bit. Now that we know how to hold the caul and we have the striker held correctly, now we can go ahead and make our first sound. The first sound we're going to run through is the yelp. The yelp is a sound, it's very versatile. A hen uses it all the time. It can be used as a locating call. It can be used as an assembly call. It can be used loud. It can be used soft. It's very common noise, probably the most common noise that a hen turkey is going to make. So we're going to start with I'm holding the striker like this. We're going to start with putting the pad of your hand on the caul to stabilize it. Right, so now your stroke is stabilized and the caul is stabilized. To make a yelp, you're going to make small or big ovals, but the shape is going to be an oval. If you want to do a small one, it's going to be a little bit, shorter. If you want to do a really loud one and you want it a little longer, you make a bigger oval. The key to this sound is making sure that you do not lift the striker off of the slate or crystal, off the surface when you're making this noise. It's very fluid. It's a hen, she's just talking, yo, 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 yo. You want to keep that cadence correct. You got to keep that striker on the surface. I'm going to make some small circles and I'm going to make some big circles, and you can hear the difference. shorter, smaller circles, making a sharper, cleaner, short yelp. Bigger circles with a little more pressure on the striker, being a little bit louder, a little bit more drawn out, a little bit more of a locating or assembly type yelp. There's also one other yelp. It's called the tree yelp. You've heard this sound before if you've gotten out pre-dawn and the birds are still in the roost. What this sound is this is a hen that's waking up, she's preening, she's hanging out on the limb, and she's just talking. She's trying to figure out where everybody's at. She's just letting everybody know that she's there as well. So when you go ahead and use a tree yelp, it's going to be dawn, pre-dawn. The birds are starting to wake up. You're just letting them know that you're there. And it's a really soft, soft yelp. This is what it sounds like. She's just making the sound in the tree, right? So you are trying to replicate that. You are trying to portray that you're in a tree at your location. So you don't want it to be too loud because he's going to be able to pinpoint that you're on the ground. You want it to be soft. I'm just waking up, but I'm over here. And then you go ahead after fly down, jump into some louder yelps or some cuts, which we're going to cover next. So a cut. This is a sound that the hen likes to make when she gets a little bit aggressive and or when she's really excited about something. Let's say there's a tom gobbling, she doesn't want to go, or she's got some hens with her and she doesn't want to go to him, she wants him to come to her. That's what we are trying to replicate. And although that's not normal, I would say, in like an everyday scenario, we are trying to go against quote unquote nature, where the tom would gobble and the hen would go to her. We're trying to pull that tom to us. A cut can be a really, really impactful sound to make when you're out hunting and he just gets hung up on the other side of a fence, or he's got another hen with him, or whatever the case may be. If you can get him fired up with a cut, there's a good chance he's going to close the distance. In addition to that, you may also call in that hen. She might get mad and you're talking back and forth with her and you pull her in, which then drags him in with her. The cut is a sound that we use a lot. And the cut is something that when timed correctly can be what kills that bird and gets him to commit and puts him on your decoy. So cut is very simple. You're holding the striker the exact same way. Your hand position on the call to stabilize it is the same. The difference is you are just going to draw a straight line with that striker instead of an oval or circle shape. The way I do it is I actually take my hands and I use my pointer finger to kind of push it across. You can draw with it too if you need to get loud or more pressure, but I like to just tuk, 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 tuk. It's a cut, and here's what it sounds like. It's very loud, it's very aggressive. Allow the hen or the tom to dictate kind of your tempo. If you're talking to a hen and she's talking hard and fast back, then you go right back at her. I like to mimic with a cut. If you're talking to a hen, I like to mimic what she's doing. If she's going hard and fast, you go hard and fast. If she's being a little softer and a little more timid, you can do the same thing, a little bit more inviting, right? If she's looking for you to come in, you don't want to scare her away by being too aggressive. But if it's an aggressive hen that's coming in and she's wanting to, have a little fight or something, then you need to tell her that you're ready to fight as well. The cut is a really awesome call. I love it. I do it all the time, and it works for us in basically every scenario except for early in the season, although it can work early in the season too. The last call that I'm going to run through today is the purr. The purr is something that we use in really close quarters. And again, the slate call is really good for a purr. Now, I use the purr when we're in close quarters just because I like to do it very soft. I'm not doing fighting purrs, just a simple hen that's making her presence known, and she's just letting that tom know that she's just ready to go. I think it's a little bit of a breeding call. I don't know that for sure. Again, I'm just a hunter. I just love to kill birds. So what I know is when it works. And for us, it works in two positions. One, if you do the tree yelp and then birds start to fly down and then you start purring, it sounds like, in my opinion, that she's flown down, she's on the ground, and she's ready to be bred. The other time I like to do it is when a tom is approaching, if he gets hung up on the backside of a ridge or he gets hung up, you know, somewhere inside of 50 to 100 yards, I'll use the purr sometimes to get him to just commit and make it sound like she's very relaxed. He's entering a relaxed environment and he can just come on in at his own pace. The purr is very similar to the cut as far as the motion goes. It's going to be just a straight line, but I'm going to angle it just a little bit. So think about, you know, your cut motion with your hand like this, as well as your yelp motion, which is a circle or oval. You're going to kind of combine those two and just do about a quarter to a third of that circle coming straight down with good pressure. This can take some time to get, but once you get it, it is a really cool tool to be able to use when you're out in the turkey woods. This is what it sounds like. You don't have to lift your striker off the surface. You can just keep it smooth, keep it clean, keep it realistic with that purr. If you don't get it on the first try, don't worry. It's a tricky sound to make, but once you get it and once you realize what you did, you're gonna nail it every single time. Don't be afraid to use it in the field. I really enjoy the purr, especially when combined with some light, what you could call putting or cutting. So this is a combination that I would do if the bird's approaching from 100 yards and I'm sitting there waiting. This is something that I would do in the field. It lets him know that he's entering a calm environment, but it also sounds like there might be multiple birds kind of in the area, talking, scratching around, hanging out, doing whatever it is they're doing, but it sounds very realistic when you're combining a purr with a cut. One last combination I want to tell you about, and one that I use very often, is combining cuts with yelps. So if you got a hen and she's really worked up, or maybe there's two hens with you, and you're cutting back and forth, if you listen to live birds cut back and forth at each other, the dominant hen will oftentimes get really worked up and she'll start yelping in addition to her cuts. And so I like to replicate that both with the crystal pot call as well as with the box call, which we'll get into in another video. How you do this is you're doing your circles for your yelps, and then you just stop that circle and do some cuts with it. I'll let you know what it sounds like right here. It's cuts and yelps put together into one sequence to let that bird know that you are in control of your situation, and if he wants to be a part of it, he's gonna have to come over and check it out for himself. This is turkey pot calls. I really, really like using these pot calls at, you know, certain scenarios of the season, specifically for softer, more realistic, tones in the red zone in that, you know, 50 to 100 yard range. Love using the pot call. If you don't have one, I recommend grabbing one. Go out, try it. Hope this helps. We got more videos coming. If you guys want to watch a video on box calls or diaphragm calls, go ahead and click the link above. If you have something that you have a question on with pot calls, happy to answer anything you guys have. Throw them in the comments below. We'll catch you on the next one.